Hi everyone. So I want to welcome everyone to PhillyPoSH, our March meeting. No announcements, just as this point. Obviously, if you guys have hopefully been checking out PowerShell.org, they've been doing a pretty good recap of the winter scripting games. Our team actually, well, a team of some of our users competed. Some with myself in the team, with a few of our members. Did relatively well. I think we came in fifth place, if not mistaken. I had little to nothing to contribute since everyone on the team was way better than I was, and pumping out some really amazing code that was well beyond what I could even pull off. Not that I could pull off a lot to begin with, but definitely like one of our members, Sunny, did an amazing job coding. Some of the other guys who weren't members but joined our team, Ifyak, Gotcho, is it? Gancho, and I'm forgetting the guy's name. He did a lot of work. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I apologize. You see this, among others. So it was a great team to work with. I learned a lot, considering I couldn't contribute anything worthwhile. So it was awesome working with them. So today we have Bartek. Hopefully I don't murder your last name. Bielawski. He's actually a Microsoft PowerShell MVP. You might have seen a lot of his work, especially during the last scripting games. The summer ones, he did a lot of articles on PowerShell.org. Also, he's published in, co-author of PowerShell Deep Dives. And today he's going to go over how to use the, correct me if I'm wrong, the Common Information Module, or I guess OMI, to interact with Linux and Unix machines via PowerShell. So I'm actually going to hand it over to you, Bartek.
Thank you. Welcome, guys. I cannot see you, unfortunately, so yeah, this is a new experience to me, to be honest. So forgive me if it won't be as good as it should be, but anyway, it's great to have you. And today I will try to show you OMI, but Linux will just be our guinea pig. We will try to see what the benefits of OMI in general. And because for me, it was easiest to actually write a provider in Linux environment rather than anything else. That's why I picked the Linux as the guinea pig to actually test it on. Before we dive into the actual topic, I would like to mention a few things about myself. You already heard a few things. I just want to add that I'm currently working out to this is an international company, and my office is in Netherlands. So even though I'm from Poland, I'm currently living close to Amsterdam. I also blog on my on two blogs actually. The one is in Polish that they probably wouldn't really appreciate the one in Polish, but the one in English is, you can see the address over here. If you want to contact me, there are two ways. The preferable is obviously the email, because then you can go as long as you want, and if you have really short message, you can always use Twitter, and my handle is Bielawski. So what I'm going to talk about today is I will start with the bigger picture, and start with the concept of data center abstraction layer. And then we will dive into OMI. First, I will try to explain what OMI is or what it isn't, and then I will try to show you how you can actually implement it. Obviously, I don't expect anybody to do crazy things like I did, just opening up C++ editor and writing a code yourself. But it's just to show you that if IT pro like me was able to do it, then if any vendor will tell you, yeah, this is hard, then you can point him to my blog and tell them, you look, this guy made it, even though he's not really a developer. So stop pretending that it's really hard. It's just you don't want to do it for us. So and more we get with OMI, then more we are able to actually manage with PowerShell. So let's start with the data center abstraction layer. You probably heard about this because Microsoft started talking about it for the last few months or even year and a half. Since they started with Windows Server 2012, they started to name the whole Windows Server, Windows System Center, Cloud OS, and part of it is data center abstraction layer. So basically, if we look at the current data center, it's just a lot of things going on, a lot of hardware that each vendor, at least it used to be the case, each vendor had its own products to manage their own data center elements, you name it, it's storage, compute, networking. Everything was managed by something that the vendor provided us with, which basically means that you had to learn a lot of different technologies to actually be able to put all these things together and make it work. But that's kind of like desktop environment I think it was in the 90s, where, you probably remember it when it was really a challenge to actually get some stuff installed on your Windows box because it wasn't really compliant or whatever. I remember the story of my colleague. It probably wasn't true when he had a situation that he tried to install modem on his Windows and plug and play just worked fine because it found the modem that was in the box next to his computer. So it really worked very well, but it didn't really work when he tried to actually use it. So we have the same situation in data center and we want to get rid of it, and OMI is one part of the picture. It's not the only element on this puzzle, but it's definitely one of the, at least in my opinion, one of the most important one. Okay, so why we would like to have something like that? Well, as I said, we have too much stuff and not enough staff. So we are expected to manage all those things, but nobody will give us extra people to actually do things. So we are always, there's not enough hours in the day to actually cover everything, and then you cannot really, either you spend too much time on the maintenance, or you spend too much time on the incidents, and there's never time to actually learn new things, or catch up on the new technologies. So we are basically stuck with all the things that are going on, and having something that will simplify managing data center, something that will be common and something that you can just easily talk to different elements of your infrastructure with single language, let's say, makes life a lot easier, and that's where we are heading to. Microsoft and standards, this is a topic that's is also, I'm around IT for longer years, and I remember all those things that when Microsoft were coming up with the standard, it was usually they just, instead of using a standard that already exists and implementing it, they were just coming up with their own standard that was just standard with, just like we have 100 standards, so let's create 101st to actually, make everything perfect. And that's changing, and we can observe it with, especially with OMI and standards that are implemented in Windows Server 2012. There are different standards that we can talk about. Definitely WSMan is one of those. You probably heard about it a lot because it's very much tied to PowerShell remoting, and also CIM is using this to communicate with the remote box. CIM is something that was there for years, but it was forgotten, or WMI in the first version was kind of like implementation of CIM, but it was just so broken to talk to CIM with DCOM, something that, again, something you can name a standard, but it was standard in in the same way that anything that's just this 101, that it was just owned by Microsoft and nobody else was able to actually take advantage of it, or at least it wasn't able to actually implement it in the correct way. With CIM, it's a different story. It's open, and so we can understand how the things are working together, and we can it's used not only by Microsoft. You can find CIM providers, for example, on your VMware hosts. You can find them on different elements in your infrastructure already, but the idea is with OMI to have it also on the boxes that historically didn't have it, like switches, for example. And we have a lot of examples of the implementation of OMI on the hardware like that. For example, Arista is getting the hardware with OMI providers, also Cisco. I think, as far as I know, it's optional component, so it's not there by default, and it's as far as I know, not available for any kind of Cisco hardware, but some types of Cisco hardware definitely have optional OMI providers that can be installed. And there are all those standards that we can also take advantage of, like SMASH or SMIS, but I won't go deeper into these standards because they are hard related to the topic that I want to show you today. So, OMI. What it is, why do we care, why we should care about it, where can we use it, how can we actually take advantage of it. So the CIM, let's start with CIM as a basis, because that's where all things start. Both WMI and OMI are built on top of CIM. So you can think of CIM as this improved WMI. Even before WMI was named the implementation of CIM for Windows, it didn't really look like implementation. It looked like somebody just took some concept and tried to break it. With the new WMI, we have really implementation, something that really looks clean, and it looks like the standards were involved in building it. CDXML, that's a pretty interesting topic, because that's the way to take a CIM, any kind of CIM that you have on the remote end, and put it, surround it with some declaration that will translate classes and methods on the remote end into PowerShell commandlets that look and feel like commandlets that are compiled with the C#, but they are in fact just XML files and nothing else is inside it. And the only thing that it's actually doing the job is CIM provider on the remote end, which basically means that you don't really have to touch C# or any kind of .NET language to have something that looks and feels like a commandlet. It's standard, so it works everywhere, and there are some differences, mainly in the ports that are used. For example, as far as I know, VMware sticks to the default 80 and 446.3 for HTTP and HTTPS. As you probably know, Microsoft moved over to higher ports, and it's 5985 and 5986. If I remember correctly, we'll see it in the demo soon. OMI. And OMI, finally, is the last step, is just WMI for your device. So any kind of device that you can install OMI on, and it really makes the landscape much broader than any other open source implementation of your WMI. Makes it possible to, as I said before, install it on, obviously, on Linux or any kind of Unix-like system, but also on the equipment like switches and routers probably as well. So you can just get with CIM, to the device that you have in your data center, regardless of the vendor that produced it. Which basically also means that if you know PowerShell and you know this concept and you can package it up in CDXML, and I haven't managed to do it myself, but Microsoft made a promise that the CDXML files can be also auto-generated based on the providers if they are written correct way. Let's put it like that. Then you just, as a vendor, you don't really have to invest much to actually get this PowerShell support for your product, which in the end means that more vendors can be able to leverage PowerShell as a management platform for their products. And in the end, we, the PowerShell users, can take advantage of it. OMI, it's pretty interesting that it was first, if I got it right, it was first designed by Microsoft, but they handed it over to the Open Group and made it open source. So we can just download the sources from the Open Group page, which today for probably Murphy's Law to be in effect, the page was showing up as in maintenance, so I cannot really show you the page at the moment because it doesn't show much. It follows the standards, so we can work everywhere. Again, OMI is that's WMI for your device, and I checked, and it's definitely works on Aristo, some Cisco devices, some Linux, other Unix like systems like Solaris, for example. It's also, as far as I know, in the System Center 2012 R2, OMI is used for the agents on the Linux boxes if you want to manage them from this product. Okay. Now to the demo. You will know in a minute why I'm showing you the My Little Pony. I have a daughter who is 6, so that's why I picked this picture. Sorry for that. Okay. We will start by looking at the how can you actually build your provider. So first thing you do, you have to define the schema for your provider for your classes. And I started with the pony. So as you can see, I specified some key like name of the pony and some special options for those, like what color they have, what sign they use, do they have this horn or wings, are the Pegasus or are the unicorn, yeah. And once you define this schema, next thing you have to do as a developer, you just make sure that this is generated. So I created some shell scripts to actually do it for me. They are not really complicated, so I can show you them. It's just there's commands, and you can specify which language you want to use as a language to actually implement this provider that you are trying to create. Then you specify the schema and the name, this friendly name that will be used later. And now I change it so that my current user is owner, so I will be able to modify the files. Now that we have it generated, we can look at the clean one. So basically, once you run this command, you will get something that looks like that. And all you need to do here is just to go to each of these methods, and instead of getting MI result not supported, you have to actually write your C++ code. I went ahead and actually did it for this ponies, so you can see the twilight sparkle, color of this character, what design she has, that she has a horn, and yeah. So my daughter would love me for that, for using it probably. If she would understand what Daddy is doing, then it probably will work, but obviously she doesn't really care so much. But anyway, once you write the code, once you implement those methods, the next thing you do, you have to build your provider. So let's try to build it. Yep, create provider. Oh, actually, sorry. First, I need to move over the actual, get classes so that we have the full file, because currently I have this in this folder where I try to generate the provider. I have this empty one. So I want to move the one that I wrote before, so I don't want to have to write it in front of you, which first of all will take some time, and I'm pretty sure I would make a lot of mistakes there. So I want to avoid it, and now we can create the provider. Yeah. Okay. Demo gods don't like me very much. Let's see where I did make any errors here. First defined here. Oh, it's interesting. Okay, let's try with the clean sheet. Generate. And now create. Okay. Hopefully it didn't broke the provider I created previously. It used to work. I don't want to debug it now. Why it doesn't work? Anyway, next thing we can do, we can go back to PowerShell, because it's our favorite tool. I'm not C++ developer, so I don't want to use C++ too much. I just use it to start with something. And as you can see, I'm creating CIM session to which is my Linux box. And because it supports only basic authentication, I can just specify that I will want to use authentication basic. Obviously, Kerberos wouldn't work in the current installation. I can probably make it better, but I'm not also the Linux admin, so I wouldn't try to do it myself. And now, as you can see from previous installation, you can see that it actually worked a few hours ago when I was testing it. And if you look at the code itself, it just looks like any WMI query you would do to, for example, get processes on your remote box when it's Windows. But now, instead of using Windows box, I'm using Linux box with this OMI provider installed on it. And this works just fine. And basically, that's how you can implement any kind of provider, just by filling all those gaps. But obviously, in the real life, you don't really want to write all the code in the way I did it. You don't really want to, specify all those values, because this is something that lives on your system. And this is something that you want to present to the remote user rather than make everything up, like in this cartoon. So next thing we can do, we can, if we have enough time or energy, or we are just, we don't have anything better to do, we can define the class that will actually represent something real. And in this case, I would try to represent the processes on my Linux box. And we will start with key that is just ID of the process. I specified also parent ID and few properties that are you can get them from your system. And as you can see here, there's also one method that I define, which by the name you can probably tell what it will do eventually. So next thing I did is just obviously I went the same route. So first of all, I just generated all those files. By the way, I forgot to show you how those files look like before we move on, before we start implementing things in it. So let's try to go back for a moment to our pony. Clean it up for a moment. And now generate it. By the way, if I don't do anything, so all those classes wouldn't be defined, I can just create provider now. But if I try to access those classes now, because I didn't implement anything, so if we go back here and I try to do it, it will just tell me that, yeah, error not supported. This is the reason. The reason is because I haven't really implemented anything. So yeah, the error is not supported because it's not supported yet. I haven't done my homework. I haven't created the code. I just compiled empty provider without any implementation of the classes. So that's why it fails. But anyway, if we look here, you can see that we have some special files, some header files. This is obviously some compiled things. And all you usually need to do is just to modify the file that is directly related to the classes that you create. So you don't have to worry about other things. If you don't do any mistakes there, then it just works. It just will be able to read your data and do things for you. So once you write all the code for the implementation, as I won't go into details here, it's very nasty code. I just wanted to be sure that I actually get information about the processes on my box, on the Linux box. So I've used some of the C++ libraries and pros virtual drive that you can find all information about the processes on your system there. I'm just reading the files from it and trying to figure out which is ID and what should go where with some regular expressions. I won't go into details. I wrote this code some time ago, and if I would have to do it again, I would probably cry like a baby. But the point is that once you write all this code, and as you can see, even it's somebody who is Windows admin and it's not a developer and haven't touched the C++ since college, can write something that actually works, and we will see it in a minute. So maybe for a minute, back to presentation. So we are currently at this stage. We want to actually implement something that is useful, not something that just shows us how many there are ponies that have horn. So now that we have all these things done, we can see we can filter processes on the remote box and see what processes have the name command line that is like OMI. We can also try something else like get some instance. I skipped over it, but here is the moment when I tell PowerShell to always point to this OMI. So it will always query this box rather than something random. So let's try lin process, and let's filter maybe bit greater than 1000. Not sure if I have any processes. Yeah, so I have plenty. And as you can see, all those processes have the peaks that are higher than 1000. So it just works like you would have WMI on the Linux box, but you know, I didn't really work hard to get there. And if you are a developer for your hardware, you already have most of the components that are required to implement it already there. You just need to put them in this methods and make sure that they are able that there is option to actually filter on things. But once this is done, it's just looks and feels like any kind of almost like the WMI on your Linux box. So this is how it works for the just the CIM commandlets, but we don't want to stop there. We want to have something that looks and feels like commandlet. So we want to be able to say, okay, get lin process, and then pipe to stop lin process. And also maybe just use what if to see what will happen if we will actually run it. So let's go back to PowerShell, and I'm going to import module that is based on CDXML. We'll look at CDXML in a minute, so you will be able to see how this file looks like, how you can structure things to actually get this look and feel like PowerShell commandlet for any OMI or CIM provider that you have. So yeah. For example, if you have something that talks to CIM, you can always package it up in the CDXML and make it look and feel like it's real commandlets. So if we import it, we can take a look. This actually just implements 2 commands. Let's go back to, this is actual module. So as you can see, this is XML file. Okay, the name probably suggests that this is XML. But what we do here is, first of all, obviously, we have to specify some schema for this XML. And then we have the class that we will try to connect to on the remote end. And we specify the path. So it is through CIMv2 lin process. It's just directly related to the schema that we used here. I haven't specified any special namespace, so it by default goes to CIMv2. So as you can see, the class is exactly the same as this one. So the next thing we can see inside, there are some version information, default none. So this is what you see eventually here. And there is also there is also node instance commandlets. And inside that, we just define either just commandlet, which can be any kind of commandlet, or just get commandlet, which are a special case of commandlets defined in this XML. And inside it, we just specify the verb for this because we already specified noun, but we need to specify the verb. As you can see, I can specify behavior UI, which basically means if I do get help, get lin process minus online, it will just punch the browser and get me to the URL I specified there. And you can, same as if you would write the advanced function, you can specify default parameter set name. You can specify different parameters that you want to query things on. And inside of those, you can specify what are the methods. So, for example, if I specify that it allows globbing, it will make it possible to actually use stars and question marks. So any kind of, look and feel, because most of the PowerShell users probably know that this is the WQL syntax, but we would probably want to have it more like PowerShell, so star on my star rather than % somewhere. And we just specify those parameters that are available on the given commandlet. We can specify the way they behave. So we can also say that this is value from pipeline by property name. We can specify parameter set for this, position, all those things that you usually do for your advanced functions. And because this is get, so it will know that this is get commandlet, so it will know that it should, on the remote end, call our get instances class, a method. So if we look here at our implementation, we have something named, I'm not 100% sure, it's either enumerate instances or get instances. The difference is pretty simple, that enumerate instances will return anything, and get instances will return just an instance that follows some that fit into filter that you provide with the command. But anyway, this is just those methods. Once they are implemented, CDXML will just call those methods on the remote end and will get data back. And there are, as I mentioned, there are different category, which is just cmdlet. And here we have to specify not only a verb, but as you can see, I also specify the method name that will be called on the remote end. And this is, again, as you can see, it reflects the schema that we have and also the implementation itself. So the name of the method that I tell PowerShell to call when I use this commandlet is defined in schema and also in the class itself. And that's how PowerShell will know how to actually do things on the remote end, how to kill processes or stop processes on the on my Linux box. And again, there's parameters that you can specify. And one last thing, that if my provider doesn't really support what if and confirm on the remote end, then I have to tell this module, yeah, okay, I want to support what if and confirm, but I want to do it on this end. So that's why I have to, in commandlet adapter private data, I have to specify that client side should process is required for it to actually use the what if and confirm parameters on my stop command. So this is how you structure it. There's documentation line for all this schema, so you can find information how to actually build this. But as I said before, if your provider is better than mine, which is just something that probably shouldn't anybody shouldn't look at it because it's probably full of bad examples, and I don't have any kind of error handling in the C++ code, so if something fails, it just dies, and whole on my provider is just dead. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend to use it for any kind of production environment. But anyway, this is just to show how easy it is to write something that just works. And if we now just use the commands, that's interesting. Okay. Something didn't work as it should. Bummer. Yeah, it's strange because we just use this class and it just works. So I'm really not sure why it fails over here. Probably some silly typo somewhere. Okay, I have a second box that also have everything required installed on it, so we can maybe try on it. We'll just start the second VM. And let's try to connect to it. It'll probably take a while to put it up. Maybe there are some questions. Let me open chat, so if somebody has a question, I can answer them now, because we probably need to wait for it to boot.
Oh, we had a question from the while it's happening. Would any of this work on like Mac OS at all?
I think so. It should. Don't see any reason why it wouldn't work there. I haven't really tried on macOS because I don't have anything any handy. But if I would definitely try to break it as well. Yeah, that's how I do. You know, it's basically macOS is fine. You know, it's just yet another well, GUI on top of some kind of Linux core. So probably Linux kernel, sorry. So it should work. I would be surprised if it wouldn't be possible to actually get it. Okay, let's see the other one. Okay, it's booted. Let's try to log in, check if the network is configured correctly. And if it is, we will try to kill this one instead. Okay, 203. They are configured the same, so I'll just change the record in the host file to full it and believe that this is the same host. Let's say hosts 20. Let me double check. No. Looks like it's on a different network. It's very strange because I was testing it and obviously it worked fine when I was testing, but now not so much. Yeah. Okay, let's try to ping it now. Okay, it looks like it works. And now we can modify the host file so we can actually use it. So it was 102,203, I think. Ping on my, yep. So let's give it a try. Yeah, this works. And this doesn't. Let's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121 maybe I will try, because I was modifying this Linux process CDXML file, so maybe I just broke it somehow. So let's move to a different folder. We have the previous version, and let's hope this one will just work. Starts fresh. Sorry for that, guys. Yeah, just demo guts if you want to do something live. That sometimes happens. And yeah. Give a few seconds to spin up. Okay. Let's see it here. Okay, now we need to recreate our connections. There you go. Let's try to connect. Okay, so far so good. Now we can go back to the point where we left. So we tried to use this one, should probably work. Oh, that's interesting. So for some reason, it doesn't really want to talk to this class, which is surprising. Okay. I honestly don't have idea why it stopped working now. So can at least do this. Yeah, this is objects, so we get objects back. And you can see as soon as I modify the object's behavior, I can really make it nice. Yeah, this is just yet another function of PowerShell that gives you ability to make any kind of output nicer for yourself, so you can easily read it, put it in your file, output to any kind of well, I don't know, some report for your boss, and make it truly nice and beautiful. What would work if I wouldn't have bad luck? So we should be able to actually Gatling process. So if we do this, it should actually return processes on the remote box. For some reason, it stopped. Oh yeah, I know why it failed. Sorry guys. I should kill myself for that. Yeah, because what you observe here is invalid class, and this is true because kill myself. Kill. I forgot to specify that, I tried to actually get lint process from my Windows box because, by default, it's just, if I do it like that, it will try to, as any kind of command like that, will try to talk to my local host, which obviously don't have this class. So if I have to specify CIM session, and then if I have the session configured, then I should be able to actually get the data back. It's named CIM session, and now you can see, yeah, it works. Yeah, so brain fart, sorry, it's like 1 a.m. here, so you have to forgive me for forgetting about running a single command and breaking the whole demo with it. So now we can try to actually get any kind of process that have the name that starts with K. Oh, I forgot one thing in CDXML here. The state of the processes on the Linux box have some closed list. So if you define a commandlet that actually will give option for the end user to pick the state, you can, as you do in an advanced function, you can always specify that this is where is it? Regular property, and here we have validated set. You probably know this guy. It's obviously in the PowerShell code, looks differently, but here we can specify it for each of those states that are kind of expected on the remote end. You can always specify it here and see all the processes that, for example, have so I can do get lint process state, and now I can tap completed as any other commands that have closed list. So if I specify Z, it says that no process has the state, so I can say R, and because I'm querying this remote box, usually what this R read running is this OMI server. It doesn't help me much usually because I probably would like to know what else is going on. But here, I just get information, whatever provider will tell me, I can get it back. So now I already updated type data, so we can see that this goes in the pretty nice column that worked previously. And what I wanted to show you now is that if I try that VI is running, oh, come on. Okay. Yeah. Let's try it again. Maybe I just killed on my server. Was it D?
Hey Bartek, sorry to interrupt. It actually looks like you stopped sharing for a second.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
The screen presentation is out because of an error. Yeah. Looks like some network issues are biting me in the behind. Okay. Yeah, so I have some network issues probably. Maybe sometimes it helps to just disconnect and connect again. If you don't mind, I will just drop for a minute and try to reconnect because currently if I try to present, it says that screen presentation failed due to network issues.
Go right
because
ahead.
of an error. So yeah, see you back in a minute.
Problem?
I guess you got it.
Yeah, well, just copy.
There's a bunch of
All sorts of fun stuff.
stuff there.
Should I just leave it open? What should I copy out of here for you?
So that email I'll want to show,
Okay.
and there's two separate things in here in blue,
Okay.
and then there's the screenshot.
Alright, so let's copy all this in the meantime. I think I could back rest of this thing kind of.
So from here, this would go to the second.
Okay, so this issue down.
If you look at this one, you don't want to get this is the last that you go on
That's the end part of
this guy.
wait, which one's which?
Welcome back.
That's right. Red. Red button.
At the top of the end.
Red button.
That's- They make you presenter again. 1 second.
Ah, okay. Now I see myself in two instances, so I was wondering why I cannot present when I'm presenter, but it still isn't me. That's funny.
She's back as a presenter now. Hopefully you can hear me.
Okay, you should see my screen again.
I'm just waiting for it to come up. There we go.
Meanwhile, I'll manage to fix the... yeah, too many windows.
I'm going to mute
Go
myself.
away. Yeah, so I managed to fix this. Oh, it looks like we have two processes. So let's say confirm now. And if you can see that I do want to kill this process and T605, this is our Vim. So I can say yes. And now when I look back and the Linux box, you can see that it was killed. So yeah, basically I can also do some things like get lin process name k star, and now I can do stop lin process minus whatever, and it will tell me what processes will be killed when I actually run it. Probably I don't want to do that because that may or may not end up with the killing all this, yeah, all this box, or putting it to niche. But anyway, as you can see, now we have this CDXML, and once I specify or default to correct CIM session for this commands, I can really just connect to it, get the information back, and if I want to act on this remote box, I can do it as well. And all I had to do was, first of all, create a provider which is probably, for any kind of vendor that is out there, it's just a matter of looking into documentation and installing OMI on the box that they want to use, and then just writing the correct code, or maybe just copying over from other products that already use C or C++, because there are two options like that that you can really use to implement it. And then just package it up in CDXML, and once you have all those pieces together, you can really just look and feel like it's PowerShell command for anybody who is not really putting it, just looking too deep into it. So let's hide your logo. Go away. So summary, we are climbing the hill, but we're definitely not there yet. I mentioned Arista, I mentioned Cisco, but you know that there are many other vendors that create also switches and also different devices. I tried to look up any other vendor that is using OMI at the moment, but I really couldn't find anything else. So if you have any vendor and they come to you and tell you, okay, there we have this nice new product, well, don't hesitate and just ask them, where is the OMI provider for this new wonderful hardware? I want to manage it with my PowerShell. If they don't want to give you first-class citizen implementation of PowerShell support, obviously. And there's definitely a lot of work to get the reality, and also to make it OMI really beneficial for everybody. With the standards, we have to be really careful, because you probably know this screwdriver, for the silly screws that you have probably in mobile phones and some other hardware. So yeah, it's good to have a standard, but rather than coming up with the new standard whenever you come to the conclusion that you need a standard, we should really force vendors, and also not only software vendors but also hardware vendors, to actually take advantage of the standards that already exist, so that we can all later take advantage and just manage storage without thinking if it's EMC or this is NetApp, obviously to a certain point, because if there's some special functionality built into the product, then we don't really want the vendor to prevent us from using it by not giving us the tools to actually use it. But with the CIM, I haven't mentioned it, you not only can start with something that is just there, but you can build on top of it and just derive from the classes, as you can do in any language that has class concept in it. So yeah, you want to have common standard for the things that are common for all those vendors, and if they want to extend or build on top of it, they still have the options to do that. And with that, I'm there. I think this is all I have prepared for tonight. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Let me open the link as well. Maybe some questions there. This one. And if not, then thank you for joining. Thank you for staying with me when all this demo started to fall apart. And I hope to see you soon. It may not happen as soon as I would wish for it to happen, but I hope to see you guys sooner or later. Thank you for attending, and hope that you got something out of it.
Hey Bartek, actually we did have one quick question if you can hear me.
Ah, okay, excellent. Yeah, I can hear you now.
It took me way too long to figure out how to unmute myself in full screen view.
Okay.
You want to say it again, Joe?
So there's a product called Bash in SourceBoard. PowerShell plus Bash. Is that something similar, or Is that completely different, or that's?
I think I've seen this product, but I think it's well, it was nice, but I think it just died. If it's the same product that we are referring to, the one that, you know, there was some screenshots from different devices. This was just native ports of PowerShell to Linux box, or I think also was shown on the Apple Macintosh. But this is something different. It's not that you run PowerShell on your Linux box. It's that you use PowerShell to manage Linux remotely, and the only piece that it's running on your Linux box is OMI provider. So it's not the same, but I think it will be really beneficial, at least for people like me or other people that just like to use PowerShell, to have actually implementation of PowerShell that it's cross-platform, so it doesn't really have to run on Windows. But I don't think we're there yet, and I haven't heard any words from Microsoft that they are going to ship PowerShell that is just well, that will work everywhere. I know that they opened option for anybody to do it at, because there is this I don't know the exact name, but there is the promise that they won't really go after you if you really implement something that looks and feels like PowerShell. So there's no legal consequences involved if you really do that. And I've seen some projects that are actually tried, but they were like, you know, they used the compiler and just ported the code to Mono, and they feel like they did the job, but that's not the way to do that. But it's possible, but I don't think the patch is really way to go forward, because as far as I know, this project just died a few years ago, and there was no continuation to it, unfortunately.
Cool, thank you. Anyone else? All right. I think we're good. Let's go to bed now.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks again for presenting for us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd really love to join you guys tonight and have fun. I'm not sure what you have planned for the rest of the evening.
That we do. Yeah, we'll have a script club and a few other things.
Okay. Oh, that's excellent. I would love to join, but yeah. It's really hard to do that remotely, and also, you know, it's like, yeah, as I said, it's all after 1 a.m., so I definitely should hit the bed. So thank you very much, and have a nice evening, and speak to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So, besides Joe, did anyone else have anything they wanted to talk about or present for like a script club or anything? All right. Well. Alright, so we'll do this is share desktop, so whoever else is still online can see.
It's Inception.
I know. How much fun is this? Alright, here. It's all yours. Make sure some questions is some flashing. All right. Email is right here. So this one? Or the screenshot? I'll go with both. All right. So you got both of them. Have at.
At work, there's a lot of physical moves. Thankfully, I'm not involved with them anymore. But there's no consistency across any one particular division that says these are the monitors that this person has, and this is the video card. One day we might get closer, but we'll never have a uniform two 24-inch monitors and one video card, for example. So when you're moving somebody around, the current model is to physically look at the monitors, how they're configured, and the resolution, and if they have more than one card. Because if you are taking, let's say, moving 20 people in a confined space, it would be nice if you could reuse the monitors for obvious reasons. So one thing that we're trying to do is look at the monitors, specifically the models, how many there are for a given machine, and its video card. There was a script that I pulled from the internet written by, I had his name in here, Jason Hurley, I believe his name is. And what he's doing is he's looking at a specific class called WMI Monitor ID. And that's actually should be on every machine. So if I just say so you can see that I have two monitors attached here. I've got the on-screen display, and I've got the projector. Now, this instance, this class, doesn't necessarily give you a good manufacturer name or product ID code. They're all based on characters. So what this guy Jason did was he then split them out and joined the characters and put that in an array and spit out the array. So if I say, this is what I get. So we have a few, actually, I don't know what, that's right. So we have two. Manufacturer, they're different. No friendly name here. I'm guessing this is possibly the projector. Okay. And this looks good here. And you can, you can go further, and you can say just to these are characters, but you are at least able to see things here. All right. Now, what if you wanted to get video info? If you wanted to get the video card, you would have to say get the caption of this class, Win32 Video Controller. If you say this is the video card, or at least the caption provided by the manufacturer. What I'm trying to do is combine them. And what makes it difficult is when this guy runs, it's its own array. You know, you've got if there's more than one, you'll get more than one set here. If I try to combine it, I don't get a clean output. So you've seen the email report before. If I run the script, I get, and the way I have it, I'll show you. I get this, right? So here's me running the script against 5 machines. This guy, for some reason, the monitors, the class is corrupt or not giving data. But for these machines out of 5, you've got multiple monitors. Everything's kind of, it gives you the data, but you can see it's, I don't even know what to call that. It's in its own array in each example. But then you have your video card, which is clean. So I guess I'm asking, does anybody have any ideas how to make this clean? Because it looks, I mean, it's usable here, but then once if I start doing something like create a report out of it, you get something like this, where it's just all jammed up together. If we look at the script where everything is combined, it's this guy. I'm creating a new object and I'm just combining my data. But because I'm using this get monitor info, it's a hash within a hash. It's a hashed array within a hashed array. And I can't figure out how to separate that out.
The first question is, what do you want?
I don't understand the question.
So do you want to be based on today, or be based on monitor, or be based on
Computer name.
So you have one line item that's
Yes.
You're really going to have one line item that has three items. So one of those items also is you can't do it.
Right.
So
Yes.
well, I mean, you can have multiple video cards as well.
Yes.
So you're going to have it is interesting to do type of introduce our as your very different objects then type that whole object and stack object and drop it where that will then span that array. Now, the difficulty with that is you can only do that on one field. But the whole container, that's the way that I would do it, and you can work on knowing that you can use the string you want it to be within the routine and if you're going to run your report, it be very different to handle multiple monitors and multiple video cards than just spitting out. You really don't know how many monitors
Right.
what if you put it in an object? Yeah, so kind of brought out kind of help. It's there to be so you're going to have simply three blocks that you're going to create an object for that we're going to so right? You have your computer name, your video card, you have the model. this here and this here can be an array.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's a custom object that's going to contain other objects. Because the key character is computer. So you don't know necessarily what the custom so these are going to be arrays. And you already got the functions to do the video card and the monitor. So all you have to do is basically say, you know, in this case, whatever the object is, job, you assign them that. So that gives you your object, and then you can do what you want with the object.
So I am creating a custom object here. But so I guess what I am confused about is the array within the array. Because I also want to parse through a list of machines first.
And you're going to reach out to these machines, and you're going to run these essentially these functions, right? You're going to get the video card, and you're going to get the mouse, or vice versa. So you can even, it can even be so much as whatever you can set up here as your video. This could be, you know, a custom object. It's most likely what that is. So you have all that information. And this is the video in a array option. Hashing it, so for each one you have to you might have here
So instead of this one array, I'm going to have an array, and then I'm going to have an array of monitors, and also an array of video, and I add that to the main array.
you get a custom object out of this.
So I guess I was close, but you're saying just further we'll create an array here, and do a for each monitor, and then a for each video.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how you can expand it out. And when you grab the function, if you have the function that's already going to give you that, if you say, if you're get monitor info, you assign it to a variable. That's an array of whatever, you know, of a PS.
Well, I mean, I am doing that, but I'm not doing a for each.
You don't have to do it necessarily for each. You've already got. So you're gonna say, the monitor is get monitor info. That's already an array. Okay. Because this return more than one monitor. Now the only caveat to that is this might not be an array. When you go and if you only got one monitor. So there's ways to get around that. The easiest way is just find it ahead of time as an array. And that's go through. So then, what you're doing here too is it's kind of complicated. Is when you go through custom objects, you have two items. You got to think it kind of think in terms of a database. And that's what makes these difficult. Arrays within arrays are very hard in concept to get if you've not done them before. It really talks through the whole concept. But think in terms of the database. That's why I asked you what's your key on this whole thing. What's the single thing that's going to common non-mirror process? And in terms of a database, you would have a you have a table that's just video cards. And then what this would represent is just key for that. And then what this would represent, that way you only have one value. Well, you have multiple values and you can calculate that. But the point is like think of those in terms of array type. So all your tables, this is just very in terms of what you've got. You just assign that variable as one of the members of the object. And now, when it comes to report, because when you put that out on the screen, say show me my object, it's going to do those curly braces around each column, says no, there's more than just what I showed you. That's where the expand property comes into play. I think I only have 3 installed at work, so I don't know if they changed that in the report personally. But I do know we can only do, at least I can only get it to work with one at a time. Now, what I can do is when I use my select object, I can say, clear them, do this, and then expand properly with this one. And then if I just select object again, say I'm good with everything is done.
It makes sense. You just have to get to that point.
So that we spoke about it, and I've done some enhancement stuff. This is the dirty way to do it. Is where I run across something I know is going to have multiples, or at least assume you have multiples. As grab that information, I'll say, if you don't get that information, type it and say for each, and then just add member and do a count. And for the member name, I'll do like monitor and then the count as a variable. So it's monitor 1 loops through, adds that as a member, and then monitor 2 adds that as a member. So when it comes back with how many monitors it has, single properties to pull it to. One issue I ran into is like the export to HTML. For some reason, it stops at whatever the least amount of members are. But if you type it to a CSV, it shows all the members, even if one has 1 member and one has 20 members. In regards to that, I can run the pseudo-code for it.
Yeah, so that's a quick and dirty way. Or it says quick and dirty. It's another way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're going to enumerate through. You're going to break it out automatically instead of just saying, okay, give me all my monitors, assign to this array, put this array, get my object. Give me all video cards, assign to this variable, put this variable, put this array, get my video card, stay there in my object. Because yes, that is a problem when you export to HTML, unless you create your own HTML. In a sense. It does do weird things for displaying as well. You can tell with blank language, it isn't necessarily a problem. You can display it in the console. CSV, you'll always get everything out.
Yeah, I think I got it.
But what it looks to me is, whenever you're trying to assign, it's probably the problem here is when you go and grab all the video controllers, you go and grab all the monitors. So these are actually arrays.
Yes.
And so what you're doing in here is now you're saying, give me, the monitor query dot user-friendly name. It's actually going to it'll actually loop through the variable with user-friendly name to go over there.
Yes.
So obviously you don't know how those will match up. So you've got to kind of have things. So if you loop through that, I mean, you would get errors because you have more users get more from the number of users. So you're trying to break it out a little too soon in the time.
Okay. All right. Thanks.